This is for your daddies, A Cup of Christmas Tea by Tom Haig. And I used to read this to them sometimes when we drive out to Norwood to see Eddie and Olga, and sometimes just on Christmas Eve. And it was kind of sad, so I usually cried. So you might cry too. But yesterday I heard something really nice. I heard that your daddy, David, called Uncle Louie. And this is kind of that kind of thing that you call and remember older people. Like Addie, you and your dad and mom always talk about your neighbor. And she brings you goodies and you're nice to her, Sam. So that's really what Christmas is all about. Here we go. The log was in the fireplace, all spiced and set to burn. At last the yearly Christmas race was in the clubhouse turn. The cards were in the mail and all the gifts beneath the tree, and 30 days reprieve till Visa would catch up with me. And though smug satisfaction seemed the order of the day, something still was nagging me and would not go away. A week before, I got a letter from my old great aunt. It read, "Of course I'll understand completely if you can't, but if you find some time, how wonderful if we could have a little chat and share a cup of Christmas tea." Here's the letter. She'd had a mild stroke that year, which crippled her left side. Though housebound now, my folks had said it hadn't hurt her pride. They said she'd love to see you. What a nice thing it would be for you to go and maybe have a cup of Christmas tea. But I didn't want to go. Oh, what a bitter pill. To see an old relation and how far she'd gone downhill. Uma has those cups. I got them from Matt Rawhauser. I remembered her as vigorous, as funny, and as bright. I remembered Christmas Eves when she regaled us half the night. I didn't want to risk all that. I didn't want the pain. I didn't need to be depressed. I didn't need the strain. What about my brother? Why not him? She's his aunt too. I thought I had it justified, but then before I knew, the reasons not to go I so painstakingly had built were cracking wide and crumbling in an acid rain of guilt. There's just words on this page. I put on boots and gloves and cap, shame stinging every pore, and armed with squeegee, sand, and map, I went out my front door. Look at his boots. I drove in from the suburbs to the older part of town. The pastels of newer homes gave way to gray and brown. I like driving to Minneapolis or to Norwood. I had that disembodied feeling as the car pulled up and stopped beside the wooden house that held the Christmas cup. How I got up to her door, I really couldn't tell. I watched my hand rise up and press the button of the bell. I waited, aided by my nervous rocking to and fro, and just as I was thinking I should turn around and go, and I'll ring the bell and then I'll leave. I heard the rattle of the china in the hutch against the wall. The triple beat of 2 feet and a crutch came down the hall. The clicking of the door latch and the sliding of the bolt, and a little swollen struggle popped it open with a jolt. There's the door and the key. She stood there, pale and tiny, looking fragile as an egg. I forced myself from staring at the brace that held her leg. And though her thick bifocals seemed to crack and spread her eyes, their milky and refracted depths lit up with young surprise. Come in, she laughed the words. She took me by the hand, and all my fears dissolved away as if by her command. Again, it's just words. We went inside, and then before I knew how to react, before my eyes and ears and nose, was Christmas past, alive, intact. The scent of candied oranges, of cinnamon and pine, the antique wooden soldiers in their military line. The porcelain nativity I'd always loved so much, the Dresden and the crystal I'd been told I mustn't touch. How many of you have things you mustn't touch? My spirit fairly bolted like a kid out of class and danced among the ornaments of calico and glass. Like magic, I was 6 again, deep in a Christmas spell, stepped in the million memories the boy inside knew well. And here among old Christmas cards so lovingly displayed, a special place of honor for the ones we kids had made. She saved their cards. And there beside her rocking chair, the center of it all, my great aunt stood and said, how nice it was I'd come to call. I sat and rattled on about the weather and the flu. She listened very patiently, then smiled and said, what's new? Thoughts and words began to flow. I started making sense. I lost the phony breeziness I use when I get tense. She's still so passionately interested in everything I did. She was positive. She was encouraging, just like when I was a kid. Simple generalities still sent her into fits. She demanded the specifics, the particulars, the bits. We talked about the limitations that she had to face. She spoke with utter candor and with humor and good grace. Then defying the reality of crutch and straightened knee, on wings of hospitality, she flew to brew the tea. I sat alone with feelings that I hadn't felt for years. I looked around at Christmas through a thick, hot blur of tears, and the candles and the holly she'd arranged on every shelf, the impossibly good cookies she still somehow baked herself. But these rich tactile memories became quite pale and thin when measured by the Christmas my great aunt kept within. Her body halved and nearly spent, but my great aunt was whole. I saw the Christmas miracle, a triumph of the soul. The triple beat of 2 feet and a crutch came down the hall, the rattle of the china in the hutch against the wall. Uma has that teapot, and I have exactly those dishes. She poured 2 cups, she smiled, and then she handed one to me, and then we settled back and had a cup of Christmas tea. The end. I love you guys. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.